Right, welcome back to Sheep Farm, and this is sort of a bonus edition, I suppose. We interviewed Jerry Marzinsky again on Sunday, and we thought we'd do a little bit of a Mint Sauce Chronicles and an introduction to the Jerry interview, which we'll come on to in a bit. With me tonight, as usual, is our Chris.
Good evening.
Is swilling in a witch piss tonight?
Yes, I've got some Shiraz. Yes.
Shiraz.
Yes. Someone actually put a comment on my oh, by the way, there's a Sheep Farm Instagram. And someone put a comment on there saying, "Chris, don't drink that poison or coffee." And I said, I totally agree with you, but we've all got a vice, haven't we? Yeah. I mean, it probably seems like I drink more than I do because we always have a bottle of wine when we're doing this, don't I?
Yeah, but we don't do this every night.
No.
Yeah.
This is usually late at night as well. It's not like we're doing it afternoon and I'm cracking a bottle open every day.
So what you're saying is it's not all right to drink it if it were 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's all right to drink it at 10 at night.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense to me that.
Oh, by the way, I've just put a picture of. I've just made a Sheep Farm bottle opener, which I'm going to manufacture and sell in my Etsy shop.
Looks cool, man.
If anyone's interested, but I've put a picture of it. It's on our Instagram, Sheep Farm. We've got a Sheep Farm page. It's called sheepfarm.co.uk Instagram page. I don't put that much on there. I mean, I've put a few news articles and things I find funny on there.
Yeah.
But I've just put a picture of I just finished it today, sculpted by my own fair hand. Yeah.
Your own fair, yeah. You've rocked from this new disguise you've got on. You've gone from Cambridge professor look with cords and one of them 16-foot scarves that Doctor Who wears to chef look with Crocs and all that type of stuff on. And now you're rocking this new sort of gypsy trailer look.
It's not new. It's what I always wear at home. A vest. You're either a vest person or you're not a vest person.
Yeah, I've never really been into vests.
No, I've always been a vest person.
Because I always weight trained. I never wanted to wear a vest because everyone used to say, he's showing off, that type of nonsense. Yeah. So I never really, I wasn't really into wearing vests. See, not that it made any difference because I was always built like a cuboid anyway. So vest or no vest, you're still a cuboid.
I never wear t-shirts. I can't wear a t-shirt. I have to wear a shirt or a vest. I just find them really uncomfortable for some reason.
Right.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you still rock same haircuts there, and handlebar tash. So either look, professor, chef, Jippo, it does go with it. Ironically, we used to get called gypsies, didn't we? Because we had horses and we lived in a caravan while we were doing farm. We mentioned that before. And when I used to go to school, they used to call me that. And we used to have a lot of friends that were gypsies as well.
And we lived in a caravan for a bit.
And we lived in a caravan, and my dad had a Ford Transit pickup.
Couldn't get any more travel other than that, could you?
No. We did have some coloured ponies at one point as well.
Did we mention the live stream? Did we mention that?
I was just going to mention it now, actually. But before we go to that, I'd like to thank everybody who's signed up as members, and also everybody who still watches the shows, any shows that we put out for free. Yeah. We're not looking to get thousands of members, and it's not for that. So we want people to watch and listen to us whatever we put out. If you're wanting to watch, it still surprises me, as I keep saying, that people want to listen to me and this muppet.
Yeah, we just want to keep evolving, like we said, don't we? That's all.
Yeah. And I think we're starting to shove a few more stuff out now. And so we'll come on to that Sheep Farm Live, which was a very impromptu live event, and it were impromptu that Mark turned up and we invited him on and he just came straight in. And that gives us another idea for another type of show.
I really enjoyed it. I got a bit overexcited. I emailed Matt the next day because I said I kept butting in and talking over him. Which I've got.
I think Matt got a bit excited as well.
He said I did the same to you, Chris. Don't worry about it. He said we're all new at this. We're just, but we're not professionals. Are we?
We're not professional presenters, are we? But I think for once, we're the quieter out.
I think you were actually. Yeah. You were actually helped by redirecting us, because otherwise me and Mark could just wangle on a shite for hours. No, I do get very overexcitable though.
Yeah. Like we enjoyed the Rise Above live streams. They've got their fantastic style. We're going to have to come up with our sort of shows going to be about. Yeah.
I think I might have a little plaque that says permission to speak like Baldrick. Just hold it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a plaque. It's these 2 fingers. When
we did that live stream, I showed my missus and I said, "Oh, but me and Dom have done a live stream." like, what live? I said, yeah. So I showed her a little image of it, and she went, "Oh no, look at the state of bookcase." That's all she said. I wouldn't
Yeah, why
mind,
didn't you
right?
tell
But
me?
that bookcase, right? I put everything in alphabetical order, and she fucking moved it and didn't put it back, and just took everything off and just put it all back in the I had everything in pristine alphabetical order. Science
It's not a
fiction
bookcase.
section, A to B comics, and conspiracy section, all in order. And she just moved it all, and I've never put it back again.
It's not a bookcase unless you've got to look for stuff, Chris.
I suppose, yeah, there is that. But I like a little bit of organisation in it.
You like a bit of organisation, and
I
we're just talking about you and the karmic payback because you've actually married someone who's worse than you,
what
and your
spatting?
eldest son is worse than you. And me and my son were laughing
Yeah,
at that karmic payback there.
yeah, it's true.
There is some sort of payback there because you've got your eldest Seb, who wrote the song, the theme tune to the sheep farm. He's as slack as a bag of knackers when it comes to timing. In it?
Yeah,
He is,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
You just
He's a
asked me.
great guy.
You just said, did Seb come up this week?" I said, "No, I think he's coming up next week." And you just pissed yourself, didn't you?
Because we were going to do another live show, right? And Chris said, I can't do it because Seb's coming up.
Oh yeah,
And
we
so
were. Yeah.
we talked ourselves
What?
out of doing another
What?
one because we got that excited about the first one.
Yeah.
But and so if you're going to blame anybody, you can blame Seb. Anyway, let's move on. We've got some good interviews in July coming up. We've got John Hamer coming up to talk about his new book in July. We've got Clive DeCarle
All right.
coming back.
Good. Yeah.
He's booked in for back end of July. And we've got Dr. Mark Nesty as well.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So we've got three great chats coming up with people who've been on before. I think John Hamer, he's got a co-author as well coming with him. I don't know, I forgot her name, which is rather rude of me.
What's his new book called?
Good question, Chris. Forgotten.
I have as well.
I'll get to that when we start pushing the.
I haven't bought
it's
it
about
yet,
the
but
nonsense anyway. It's all about
yeah.
the nonsense. Yeah.
Oh, the Masquerade. The Masquerade.
That's it. The Masquerade. I was going to call it the Chameleon, but it's the Masquerade, isn't it? Yeah. So what we're going to do tonight, right? Well, we're going to go through a few news clips like we normally go, and a few stories and stuff like that. Then we're going to sort of have a talk about the Jerry Marzinsky interviews, really, not just this one we've just done. And then we'll have a bit of a conversation about that interview, and then we'll play the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes to take it up to about an hour 45. This one, and then the second one will be released as a members only on sheepfarm.co.uk. So it'd be roughly 3 hours worth of download you better get on that. So, what should we start with? There's been a new outbreak that's taken over from the Carl Cox pox, or Brian Cox pox, whatever you want to call it.
Do you mean the rise of the new historical nonsense?
The new historical nonsense that was found in the sewers. The polio mint nonsense. It seems to be that they're just pulling these things out. You know, it was Brian Cox pox, smallpox, not just the chimp pox, smallpox. Then it was another variant, or now it's.
And when you just think of the logistics of finding it in a sewer, I mean, can they find it in a sewer? I don't know, but you just envision a guy doing that, like when they're looking for gold nuggets, don't you? Trailing through a load of shit, looking for a little emblem of a whatever.
But how many tests do they do? What they never said was, like, do they test for 25 different things?
Yeah. Well, I sent you that second article said that they were looking at Lord something, weirdly, that they said this Lord something was looking at going actually into the pipes so they could find out which street or which house it came from. I mean, and the fact that they said it came from another country, someone who'd obviously had a jibby jab over there of it, and then it just reminds you of the beginning of the last 2 years, doesn't it? When they pinpointed patient zero, it's just bollocks, isn't it? It's just absolute bollocks, isn't it?
It is the super muck spreader.
All that shit.
So what they're saying is they can trace this back to the toilet that it came out of,
basically, yeah,
and the house that it came out of. right?
I think that's what they're implying.
Now, if you think about that bit there, that is where they want this to go, don't they?
Yeah, so they can just lock someone's house down
Or
on a whim.
they can have a gadget under your house that tests everything that comes through. And if
Yeah.
they feel like you've been a naughty boy or girl
Mm.
or another binary code,
Mm.
then you could be then locked down, told to stay at home.
This neighbourhood, this
Well,
street. I mean, you
yeah.
could from what happened recently, you could envision that is what they want to happen. We want to lock
Mm.
down this street or that
This
household,
block of flats
that
or
neighbourhood.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's not a million miles off that, is it?
well,
That's
I
not.
mean, it looks like that's the intention. Whether they get it or not is another thing, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I know we've discussed this a lot, right? But I do think I know we're on about it the other day. I do think there was a win there. I think they did get knocked back. I think they
I don't.
did.
I know we were discussing this earlier on in the week, but win loss. Somebody sent me a nice email through.
I don't
I'm
think
not
it's
going
a
to read it
win.
all out.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's a win fight. I think it's a knockback. That's all. Just a pause
yeah.
or a slight delay.
Well,
Because I
whether
mean,
it's a win
everything that was in
or,
that agenda 2020 never came to fruition. A lot of it didn't come to fruition
but
in
we
the
will
level
never
it
know
was
what
supposed
is
to
a
be.
win or a loss.
No,
Uh,
the revolution
you,
will not
you,
be televised,
you-
etc.
exactly. You'll never know what is a win or a loss because we don't know what the full plan is. We only know snippets of the plan, and we can only
And
formulate our own
you can almost
ideas of what
imagine
it might be.
you can almost imagine someone there going, "Ha, they think they have won, but they didn't realise it was a double but." You know what I mean? You can almost imagine that.
Also,
Kind of.
we're talking on Master Lee's dojo last night, and we were talking about this very subject. And I don't think we're here to win. Whatever we are, the 5%, 7% of people,
No,
that we're observers. We're the adjustment bureau, if anything. We're thinking we're going to win or lose. That means we're part of this duality that they're playing.
yeah, I would agree. I mean, I did used to think like that. Now I just think I'm just gonna. I think we've said before. I'm just gonna get on with stuff. Try and stay as happy as possible. Look after people around me, and that's it. And just observe what's happening. You know, there's nothing else
Yeah.
you can do, is there? I can't physically do anything really. I mean, we can only do what we're doing here, which I do think there's something to be said though for like-minded people listening and talking about this stuff.
I do.
Because
Yeah.
that's an energetic level, isn't it? Of
Well, there's two or three different parts where there's a benefit to that. One, people like us all, especially that's when the live chats work really well, because we're all sat in, we're having to mix with Muppets all day. A lot of people are, and can't have a conversation with people.
right,
So
and then
getting together as a group of people and getting it off your chest is very therapeutic.
well, that'd almost be like one of Mark Devlin's meditations, wouldn't it? I suppose in
exactly
a
the
way.
same. And
Do you know, I never
Mark
thought of it like that.
Majersky's,
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. And you know what? I was chimming the next day after we did that live chat.
yeah, that's why the energy is so good when you watch Rise Above. Even when you were part of ours, and ours were very rudimentary in comparison, but the energy that was created there, and even if you go on Rob's Esoteric Nights of Malta on a Friday night, the prequel to Rise Above, you know, the energy in that chat's fantastic as well. Simply because where can you go to have that chat? You can't.
Yeah.
So we are definitely observers, and also, like you keep saying, putting the information out into the ether. There is a benefit there because when you put that out as an energetic conversation, that's going to make a difference somewhere.
I mean, if you've got 200 or 300, 400, whatever amount of people all there, all engaged, listening, that is a meditation in itself, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And also,
that's what these bastards are doing back to it. So.
I remember one of the early ones we did, and we were talking about why us, why are we the people who are we're not even on the other side of the fence. We're not really in this dimension with these people, you know. Why us? But it goes further than that. I.e., it is us. So,
well, it's even weirder for other people other than us, because we speak to each other. There's people who don't have it. It became quite apparent, didn't it, when we first started, that there's some people whose families, friends wouldn't speak to them about it.
Yes.
So, I mean, imagine that.
Well, my neighbours round here obviously don't want to get in a conversation with me about anything, whether it's health or anything to do with this.
I think that was before the nonsense.
That was before this, and they certainly don't now. I was talking to one of the neighbours today, and he's a great guy.
As he walked slowly backwards.
Yeah, as he tried getting away. No,
Rugby tackled him.
we were talking, but he didn't want to enter the conversation about, and he did do at one point, but he won't. He won't now. And so people are surrounded by
You won't now. He did do at
people are
one point,
surrounded.
but he won't now.
Won't now. I saw a look of
After
terror
his
in his
rugby
eyes,
tackling.
but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but so there is a positive effect of, not because we all want to get together, because most of us are quite single-minded, hence why we're doing hence why we think like this. But we also need to get this stuff off his chest, because if you keep it inside, it can become toxic.
Yeah.
There's no doubt
Anything.
about that,
Yeah.
because it's very dark information that we all carry around with us, and we do need to get this stuff out of our system. And I don't mean a rant. I don't mean shouting at anybody. I'm on about talking with like-minded people.
Yeah, and it makes it. Yeah. Once
Because
you realise they want you
we're not
dead
selling
or
anything to
sick.
new people, are we? We're not. Somebody said, "Oh, you're waking a lot of people." I said, "We don't wake people up. You can't
Well,
wake
you might.
people up."
No, but you might.
No,
We might do in the fact of someone who's already into this level of stuff passes it on to someone
no.
in a
That's what they were saying, and I
right.
can't agree with that. I'm not saying
Well,
I'm not saying I'm right here, by the way.
You don't know
What I
that.
will say is, I won't say we wake people up. I think that, for me, that's an arrogant statement. I won't say Mark Devlin wakes people up, or David Icke even. I would say that if you're
Right.
going to wake up, you were already on that path,
They're just tapping in.
and that's why you went to watch whoever it is.
They're the conduit that taps you open, kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure Jacko won't mind me saying, but 10 years ago, longer, 2009, roughly. I know even dates, so I won't get into dates, but 2009, I remember going for a walk with Crab Claus, right? He had to shave his arms, but
We holding
other than that,
hands.
no, I couldn't hold his hand. It was like
Holding
holding
hands,
it with
skipping
that,
down the street.
like holding it with that Yeti. You know, when they took that picture of like Yeti that used to change Bionic Man. Anyway, we we went for a walk with Squirrellands, and and I remember talking to him because he's ex-military, talking to him about Afghanistan and 9/11. He'd never heard any of this stuff before, that side of it, and he was terrified, and he went right into his shell type of thing. Now, did I wake him up? No, he were obviously at some point willing to absorb some information. Otherwise, we know these people. You can't wake people up. You're wasting your
he
time.
was probably thinking about it somewhere in the back of his mind, and you just
Yeah.
turned that little knobble.
Well,
Didn't you?
Jay's somebody who questions things. So he questions stuff, and he doesn't like authority. So he's already in a sort of mode where he's at a tipping point at that point. You know.
But what
Um,
the TV does though, it takes those people and it gives you like an alternative version of the news, doesn't it? So it'll say like that bullshit Partygate thing, right? It'll give you that, and it'll be like then you'll have someone's come to their own conclusion and they think they're thinking radical by going, yeah, but you know what I mean? And it's not, none of it's radical. It's all supposed to make you go in one or two directions, like
Well,
the
again,
old
it's like,
Brexit bullshit, you know?
do you wear Nike, Puma, or Adidas?
Yeah.
Because Puma are a bit edgy, you
Oh
know.
no,
And
I don't wear any of them, fatty. I wear this home brand made. You know what I mean?
And it is about that, isn't it? And which brand do you smoke to kill yourself with? You know, it is a bit like that, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I don't know where we're going with that. We went totally on.
Well, I always say that what they want you to think is that the system that runs everything is incompetent and stupid. I mean, Bobo Johnson's a prime example. The biggest.
That's why it's there, isn't it?
Yeah, you got England and America have got the two biggest clown runners they've ever had, ever.
Yeah,
at the same time.
And Ukraine.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, he's another.
You got Ukraine.
He's on his own. He's on his own level. Yeah. No, but I'm on about actual clowns who look like and behave like clowns. At least old Trudeau tries to act serious, you know, and Macron and all those lot. I don't know, but yeah, I think they're taking the piss out of us when they put these bozos.
Oh, it's certainly taking the piss, all of it. I mean, even down to Schwab, who's obviously been put there as a Bond villain. I mean, if you put him and Blofeld together, you wouldn't be able to pick the two, would you?
No.
So obviously we've been that's been injected into our psyche for this particular moment. It's just a piss take.
And then the fact that everyone like us is saying, "Oh, he's actually a Bond villain," makes it almost more ridiculous what we're saying.
Yeah, the one thing that going back to what we were talking about prior to this, the sewers and finding polio in the sewers, it takes me back to Dr. Mary's monkey. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever read that. It's quite an interesting book. Whether you believe the viruses thing or not, it's sort of
Well, I would
it's
recommend
about.
Dr. Mary's Monkey. It's
I
like
would
it's
recommend
like
it.
reading a thriller, and
Yes,
it's bonkers, isn't it? It's bonkers.
it's bonkers because it links a lot of things together, and it makes sense. It
Mm.
resonates,
Yeah.
and it resonates that the weird thing is, before this came out, I just started reading it again.
Yeah. Well, you put me onto that book. And yeah, I read it before this recent
No, what I
nonsense.
mean is, like 2 weeks ago, I started reading it again.
All right. Well, when I read
Yeah,
it a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
yeah. I mean, I've read it 3 or 4 times now, but I've started
Yeah.
reading it again.
Did you
And
read the other one that linked to it? The
yeah,
one about with I never got
Ferry,
that one.
David Ferry, and yeah, I forget what
No,
it's called.
the one about what was the other one? Oh, it was about the woman who had the
She wrote 2 books, one called David Ferry and one about Oswald. I read both of them. Yeah,
right. Well, there's Mary's
Judith,
Monkey.
Judith Ferry. I forget what her surname is,
Yeah.
but yeah, Baker, Judith Ferry Baker. She were part of that
She writes one
documentary that
about
were
an
on
affair with Oswald, doesn't she?
History Channel that got turned off. They played it and it never got shown again after the first time.
Right.
But they played all the other ones, The Men Who Killed Kennedy. They never played that one again.
Right. I never saw it. No.
I've got it recorded, but
Right.
it's got copyright. I might put it on Sheep Farm, see if I get screwed for it. But
Anyway, Dr. Mary's Monkey. Cracker.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about arm spears, 120 grand for a damage payment, which is not really damage, is it? Because it killed him.
Well, it's the ultimate damage.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I read that story fight, right? And I was trying to think, what angle is this? What's it playing for?
yeah,
What's it doing? Why is it in the? Was it? I think the article you
public
sent was in the
domain.
Daily Mail.
Yeah.
But then the next day there was one in, or even the same day, there was one in the BBC. And what I did notice it said people making. I can't remember the numbers. Was it 1,300 have gone for damage payments, something like that?
Yeah.
But then it said what I found the most interesting bit was it said. It's people making false claims about jibby jabs that are the problem. That's why it's all because the main thing of the story was they had to wait a year to get the money, not
Right.
the fact that there's a problem with the arm
Well,
spear.
the strange thing is
They were more around the year wait for the money, and they were blaming it on people making false claims and making false claims about the jibby jab. That's the reason that it got held up for a year. So the story was literally saying it's still them nutters that are making it all go wrong. And also, I read that article, and it was actually quite distressing. I felt a bit distressed after reading it because you've got a man and a woman who were both rock musicians, clearly, all tattooed up and that. And they clearly, and they got a bit older, and then it said they'd retired to like a leafy suburb somewhere. And I don't know. And then he croaked, and you just think it was just awful.
I remember it
Horrible.
happening at the time. She were called Vicky Spit, and he were
Yeah.
called Lord Zion.
Right. So they're just rock musicians. But are those? One thing I know, are those people supposed to be the rebels of this world? Do you know what I mean? And then they've just queued up. I mean, no disrespect to the guy or anyone, but when you look at them, they look like the rebels. If you were going to say who's an anarchist in this country or in this world, it would be them, wouldn't it? Tattooed up,
What is it? What
pierced
is an
up.
anarchist now?
Yeah,
What is
I don't know.
a woke person? What is
Well,
anybody now?
one
You
thing
know?
we've discovered is every walk of life gets to this point we're at now, don't they?
Yes.
Every person, every
Yes.
age group, every
Yeah.
every demographic of human being in England can get to talking about like we're talking now, and every other one of them can also fall for all the shite, can't they?
Well, again, they moved to a leafy suburb, so they weren't that rock and roll, were they?
Well, I suppose
They weren't,
everyone wants.
they weren't swimming in their own piss still, were they? You know,
Well, I suppose everyone gets
spitting
to an
on
age
each other.
they want to get a bit
No, I'm
quieter,
not
don't
knocking them for going to a
they? Yeah,
leafy suburb. I'm not
yeah, I know
saying
what you
that. What I'm
mean.
trying to
Yeah, I
say
know.
is they're obviously, um, but there was that BBC lady, wasn't there, whose husband were on BBC, and that BBC one were trying to basically ridicule that guy when he were obviously clearly upset that his wife had died with
Oh,
the
yes.
Z Necker jibbery jabbery.
But the
That
conclusion of
one,
that story again was, I'm not anti jibber jab.
yeah. How can he not be anti jib jab?
Yeah.
How's
I
that
mean,
work?
it is weird how they just release these occasional people and say,
Yeah.
that happened and that happened. But then you've got to look at what they're focusing on. They're focusing on the fact payment's been held up because of basically people complaining that they've been damaged by a jibby jab.
Yeah.
It's been held up because there's been too many, basically.
But aren't you the club complaints department?
Yeah.
So you've got what you're saying
take
is
everything on board.
it's been held up by a lot of people complaining that the partners died after jib jab.
Well, or but they're basically saying it. Yeah, they're basically saying it's conspiracy theorists.
But you see, again, the criteria probably, and I haven't looked at it. I had looked at it for before all this started. Actually, what the because I'd worked
we
out
talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I'd worked out that roughly the British government since the late 1970s, I think it was 79, has paid out about £100 million in damages for arms spears across the board.
And
that was before this. Yeah.
And their maximum is 120 grand.
120 grand. And you've basically, I mean, as it's showing now, I mean, that guy's passed away.
Well, also, in fact, that article said, I forgot about this, it said that the trouble is to get that 120 grand, you've got to, well, I mean, he died, but if you're just going for damage, you've got to prove, and they were saying it's actually really old fashioned. But you've got to prove that you've got 60% disability to even get anything. Now, proving that, it's like proving it to an insurance company, isn't it? How do you prove?
Yeah, but also there's two things there, Chris. One, you're actually taking legal action against the government, which is the very people that's meant to be protecting you.
Well, and you can't take the legal action against the jibby jab company.
No, what I'm trying to say is you're suing the people, though. Forget the corporate entity. You're suing the people that are meant to be protecting you.
And they're the same people that told you to have it, whether you're pregnant or not, or whether you're this or that.
Yeah.
It's a fucking circus, mate. It's a circus.
Well, and also the figures roughly are that out of people that go and try and get the money, 10% get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So out of the 10% get put forward and 10% get it. That's how small amount of people get it.
So then, and also it said in that article, but well, it said something along the lines.
Why are the taxpayer paying for something that wasn't made by us? Nobody asked for it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he was very basically saying as well that he'd have had less chance of survival if he'd have got the COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like that guy we knew, innit? Who your father-in-law, when he said, but he'd have had much more chance of getting ill if it'd have been much worse if he wouldn't have had the jibby jab. And he said, he's fucking dead. How much worse can it get?
Yeah. Because, again, it comes back to that cognitive dissonance. People just cannot link, and we're not the only ones that spoke about this, they cannot link the two together.
Yeah.
And then on another side, in a news article from the Bradford Telegraph and Argus, that well-known national newspaper, suicides in Bradford are up by almost 50% in Bradford.
Right. What
I don't
kind
know
of
figures are.
numbers
I didn't look into it. I'm just saying that is well worth a deeper look. I just wanted to put.
But that's actually in a Bradford local rag.
That's in a Bradford local rag. That.
And I was saying to you that I think that in those local rags, more stuff sneaks its way through. I know it's down, like we were saying, it's down to the editor, in it. But I think bigger things, because you've got to remember them journalists. They want to get recognised, don't they? Because they want to go and work for the big ones. So they.
Well, you better ask Henry. I won't say his last name, but he works for a local paper, I believe. And
well, it would be interesting to.
He might be listening to this, but he tells me it's still difficult to get stored. It's nigh on impossible to get stories through.
But what I mean is, you get a lengthier story. So if you pick it apart, you can a little bit more detail get sneaked through.
They'll do a control job on it.
Yeah.
So let's just say there's a story breaking that they don't want out there. They'll make sure the story goes out on BBC, and they'll control what the narrative is.
And then there's situations like that one you just said, 120 grand, but then they splice in a little ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Of and like we saw through the nonsense, blah 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 blah. But he's still better off getting the jibby job. That is literally how it went.
Yeah. Right. So crab claws has been well, I got an invite to this strange. I sent you that link over.
I've not seen it.
It says, "Come flu camp, clinical trials. Could you be a health hero?"
Health hero.
Yeah. So he got this letter addressed to him. Hi, Crab Claus. I mean, Jacko. You, 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 you may think you know what a clinical trial looks like.
But you
You might.
don't.
No, I do. I know. I remember them guys about 15 years ago where their heads
Whose heads
turned into
blew up.
pumpkin.
Their heads
Yeah,
blew up.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
You might be picturing a locked room for weeks on end with little contact with the outside world. However, in 2022, clinical trials are more advanced than ever.
Oh, nice.
They now offer you the option to work remotely from the location of your trial for the length of time you are away, while being paid up to £4,200 for your contribution. In an average year in the UK, flu kills approximately 11,000 people and hospitalises many more. There are hundreds of strains of Kung Flu and hundreds more which can lead to colds and sore throats.
Oh,
Therefore, studies play a key role in helping us understand how these things work and what treatments can prevent them. The benefits in taking part in the clinical trial: get away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, have more me time to pursue hobbies such as reading, drawing, and even catching up on Netflix.
is that what it says?
This is what he says. It's like a leaflet.
Like
Have the
basically, say you
option
can
to
have a little
work.
holiday at home.
Yeah, have the option to work or study remotely from the location of your trial. Get up to £4,200 for a 16-day residential stay. Have a full health checkup during screening. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks.
After you've injected me a load of shit.
Have the satisfaction of knowing your contribution is helping a great cause.
Health hero.
Yeah. So there were another part to this that if you're aged 18 to 55 and generally healthy and interested in being paid for helping science, partaking in a study might be for you. Your safety is at the core of our clinical trials, and we will ensure you are well looked after throughout the process. Unless something goes wrong, obviously, and then
Yeah,
you
tell
pay
that to those
proclaiming.
kind of pumpkin heads whose heads blew up
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Mr. Turnip and Mrs. Pumpkin.
Yeah, if you're interested in being scanned,
Yeah.
pops
These trials involve healthy volunteers. Half are
beforehand.
given the treatment and being studied, and half are given a placebo.
Can I have the
Sounds
placebo,
like the
please?
Ash conformity study to me. Yeah.
Can I have the placebo, please?
You you won't know which half you are in to make it a fair trial.
Right.
At flu camp, everybody in the trial is then
Flu
exposed to a given cold or flu and observed to see if they develop symptoms. Human challenge clinical trials allow specific infections to be investigated in a closely monitored and carefully controlled clinical setting while you're watching Netflix. No, it didn't say that. I could go on. So if you think you'd enjoy the buzz of knowing you've contributed to
What a
treatments
buzz.
which could help millions of people, volunteering on the flu camp trials might be for you. Volunteer today.
You've got to give them some credit for they're selling it there, aren't they? I mean, yeah. If I were a fucking knobhead, right, I'd read that and think I can be a health hero and look after everything safe and never mind if my head swells up like a fucking pumpkin and explodes.
Yeah. Anyway, I did a bit of digging around, and the trial's actually run by a company called Egton Medical Information Systems Limited, or EMIS, and that's registered in England. One of the head guys there is the chief medical officer of EMIS Group, is Sean O'Hanlon. On LinkedIn, it says EMIS looks after 40 million records across every major healthcare. We remain uniquely placed to provide faster, better, and cheaper healthcare through connected software and services. But recently, just this year, actually, it was bought by a company called Bordeaux UK Holdings 2 Limited, which is owned by Bordeaux UK Holdings 1 Limited, which is an affiliate of United Health's Optimum business. and it was bought. They bought 49% premium on EMIS. They gave a 49% premium on EMIS's closing share price. It was valued today when I looked at 1.19 billion. Now I don't know whether that valued just before they bought it, which is only just recently. But this United Health has a market capitalization of $460 billion. It's worth that.
Mm.
I've never even heard of it. Never
No.
heard of it. It's got sales of $260 billion.
Sells in what?
They globally, especially for what they look like, they specialised in was, do you know when people get health insurance in America?
Yeah.
So they offer all the data and backup. So all what the doctor sees on his screen and all this type of stuff, all the systems that they're running.
Right.
So they're controlling all this data again. They also participate in US lobbying. So they give tens of millions to lobbying groups in America as well. They have done, 2009, 2010. They had 7 lobbying groups in 2010. I could have gone on, but they've also got two foundations, a United Health Foundation and the United Healthcare Children's Foundation. And it's a non-for-profit private foundation.
I don't think we've ever found a positive foundation, no matter how much you try and gloss over it to make it sound lovely.
No, but Chris, they've given $170 million to improve health and healthcare.
Right, okay. Right.
So that's it. They've done it.
Yeah, tell that to African and Indian villages that they decimated.
Yeah. So right, before we come on to, we've been talking already 36 minutes and we've gotten really nowhere. But
no, we haven't got everywhere.
Yeah. So
well, literally, we've got everywhere.
Yeah, we've got everywhere. So we were discussing the sun in that live stream, I think it was, or one of the podcasts that we'd done before. And for a few months now, or quite a while, we've been noticing that the sun's been changing colours. I sent you some pictures over. Did you see them pictures?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Different colours of the sun. And
I think it linked into what we mentioned in the last mint source was about the what were we talking? What was we on about, Fight, when I had that weird dream about that meteorite, about that thing? What were we talking about there?
I can't remember now, but for a long time, I've been thinking that the sun is some kind of energy. Obviously, it's an energy giver because things grow with it. Now, things physically grow. Now, can we mentally grow from the sun? And if you think about what's been going on over the last 50 or 60 years, we've been told to stay away from the sun. We put sunblock on. We can all see what's going on with the clouds. That, the clouds are being called different names now, but they're blocking the sun. It's like a blanket.
I remember seeing something years ago about saying even like sunblock, like you said, and that is what's responsible for killing the reefs in like Australia. It's not nothing else other than like sun cream.
Yeah, it kills aquatic life, but it's good for us.
Yeah, and it blocks out the sun. Now, I don't think you should wear any sunblock. I mean, I think you should dodge in and out of the sun if you've got fair skin, or just accept that you shouldn't be in the sun.
Yeah, but the sun download, as I call it, I think if we look over the last 2 years, if we use the scenario that they kept us in isolation, out of the sun, and that particular moment in time, especially in 2020, might have been a key download moment.
Where you needed to, where if you were outside, you were taking it. We were having this discussion, and this sounds, well, I was on about my 4-year-old who's been playing up a little bit lately, and I was talking to you about it, and it's like with language, right? Because I'm obviously older now, and I'm watching her grow up, and she's 4 now. Even with language, I don't think language is a learned thing. It's like I think they just gain it from somewhere. And intelligence, you just gain it. It's not because it's like one day it's this way, and then 2 days later, I'm sure most people who've got kids can say the same. And then they just go bang, and a load of new intelligence has arrived. So we were discussing: is it a download of intelligence, not a?
Like we were talking about chickenpox.
Yeah, they learned that at nursery, or they learned that at this, or they got. The amount of times I've said to my nipper, "Where did you get that from? Where have you learned that?" And sometimes I think it is literally a download of information.
But it comes back to that thing. I always used to think when I was younger, and I couldn't make head and tail of it, but why were people at a time when travel wasn't like it is now, even though it's been rat shit for the last 2 years, but let's just say someone was building a pyramid in Egypt and then an Inca were building a pyramid in Mexico, they would not have known that. And I don't care whether it's 50 years apart or 100 years apart. They're building them in a similar time. Also, why would somebody be inventing the light bulb in America, in France and in Britain, and in electricity? All these things that got invented all at the same time.
Yeah. And also,
Airplanes.
even like with what we do, Fatter, we can say something or hear something, and we've been talking about it, and someone else is talking about it at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing that we knew we were onto something, because we heard a podcast with Crow 777 and James True, and they were talking about cathedrals and things, and they were also talking about the sun download, and which is what we've been calling it that. I'm not saying they call it the sun download, but what happens if the sun's like a giant Wi-Fi system?
I believe David Icke talked about that. I think he thinks that the moon is a Wi-Fi system.
Right.
Anyway, just to pop this in there, Fatty, we were talking about this on the Last Mint Source, and I'm going to pop this in there. And this sounds bonkers, right? But I'm just going to put it out there anyway, it doesn't matter. But I had a dream that night. We were talking about, what's going to happen. I can't remember what we were on about, meteorites or whatever's going to happen next. And I think I was saying it was going to come, maybe a possible meteorite. Anyway, that night I had a dream. And it's the only I've got 3 recurring dreams, right? And this is the most prevalent one, and it is that something turns up in the sky, whether it's I wouldn't say it's sometimes a UFO, but almost like a changing orb system in the sky. And the dream's the same, but the way it happens is always different. And it is literally, I'm running around going, look, I told you this was going to happen. I told you this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. And even to a point where I actually sometimes in the dream go, oh, this is just a dream. I've had this before. And then I go, no, it's not. This time it's real. It's real. It's real. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm running around trying to gather people and say, I told you this was going to happen. Anyway, after the day we were talking about it on the Last Mint Source, I had that fucking same dream again. And it was that this thing came from. It was a bit different this time. It was like a meteorite, and it shattered, or it came into our orbit, and then it spun off. But in this one, I was running around saying, "I told you this was going to happen," but I was saying it's not what you think it is. Everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So whether that means anything at all, I don't know. But I've had that dream since I was 20 years old, and I'm now 48, on quite a regular basis. If something comes from the sky, is what I'm saying, or they tell us something's coming from the sky, I don't think it's anything to be scared of, even though we'll be told it's something to be scared of. That's all I can say. Whether it's true or not, whether I'm actually losing the fucking plot, or it's just a weird dream, who knows? I don't know. But it's very weird, because it was almost like the next day I told you I rang you quite excited because we'd been talking about it. I had that same dream again. And it's not so much now because it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but it was very prevalent on my mind. It was like, and I needed to tell you very quickly what had happened. And I was working that day, and then I was dying to finish work to ring you to tell you what had happened.
Well, it comes back to that. And I know we're going to talk about a couple of films and stuff in the past, but the sunblock, the blocking of the sun, the demonization of the sun, is total inversion of what actually used to go on. The sun was worshipped.
Well, it's a life giver. It's the life giver.
What would I think the sun is? Some kind of portal, maybe, or even the sun might not be the actual sun. It could be like, say, the magnifying glass.
It could be a fucking hole. Could be a hole in the system that we see, couldn't it?
Whatever the sun is, could be behind the sun. If you get me drift, it's not.
You know what always pops into my head, Fatty, is that CERN hole.
We've just turned it back on again, haven't they?
Well,
Next month,
but that that Doctor Strange hole in the thing, and then it's a portal to something else. Is it that? I don't know. Who knows?
But there's certainly some sort of download happening, and the two main protagonists for me, well, the three, is the Earth, the normal frequency of the Earth, the Moon, or the Sun.
Well, also we talked about the fact that vegetation seems to be fucking going abundant.
Yeah.
I mean, my garden looks like a forest at the minute.
Well,
what I mean is, they're saying the environment's getting destroyed. Is it actually, is it
fighting back?
Is it fighting back? Is it going, bush? I mean, I was saying to you, I saw just down in Cambridge, I don't know if I mentioned this on here before, but I can't say this. What's it called? Them falcons called? Peregrine
Peregrine
falcon.
Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one camped out on a cathedral in Cambridge, and there were loads of guys there with their cameras. Then the next day, I saw an article about the fact that there's, I can't remember which falcon it was, some kind of falcon has nested in Poole in England, and it's not been there for 200 years.
Right.
And I saw a deer near my house. And you just think, is nature actually going to come back in abundance? And
It
that is
reminds me
why,
of like I Am Legend.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we were talking as well where again this reminds me of Fringe, the series Fringe, where things were breaking down. And
yeah.
what was that film that DiCaprio made about dreams?
Inception.
Inception, yeah, like that, where things were falling down when they were doing
Yeah.
the dream states. And when you look at things now, or when I look at things now, personally, and if anybody else has this sort of experience, everything looks old, like it's been broken down.
Well,
Buildings, especially, but man-made buildings, man-made structures, especially, and there's an
definitely in
abundance of
Ukraine.
green. Now, obviously, I don't live in a city centre, but I'm not saying everything's falling down. It just doesn't look right. Maybe I'm viewing things differently. I don't know, but it doesn't look right.
It's quite funny actually you say that, because they're pushing everyone to grow wild gardens, aren't they? Just like the wilderness grow. So they're pushing that because they know it's going to happen anyway, and they've got there's no
You've
choice.
got no control over it.
No control over it. So by saying you should do that, then people do it a little bit, but then we all of a sudden look around and there's loads of wilderness growing through the concrete, and it's not because they told us to do it; it's because that's what's supposed to happen.
Well, let's face it. Everything they've done, and we hit on this on the live thing, that in the 1980s when they were talking about that Volkswagen Golf doing 50 miles per gallon, and it were very reliable. Yeah, that's what the slogan was, very reliable.
Yeah.
There isn't a car now that does 200 miles per gallon or 500 miles per gallon.
No.
Why? Why? Because they haven't put the investment into that because they don't want that to happen.
No.
Or it running on a jug of
peel.
water for a week, or orange peel, or whatever.
The orange peel car, yeah.
Whatever it is, right? They haven't allowed that to happen because they don't want it to happen. So technology isn't at its height. We're not being given the latest technology because technology goes where the investment is.
But like I said before, one thing they are allowing is these small little weird flying cars, flying taxis, or whatever they're going to bring out. They're allowing that because all those 12 companies I looked at started developing them or pushing them forward in 2017, 2018. So 12 countries, all different, are all manufacturing gyroscope technology into a flying taxi, flying car. So that's on purpose. End of story.
Yeah,
they could have done that anytime, couldn't they? Why all these companies all at the same time are doing the same thing?
I remember a few years ago, got some investment in a company that was doing cloud technology. And the reason it got investment in it, the guys in the investment company were saying that you don't want to invent a business where there's nobody putting investment into it. Always come up with a business idea
based
around
on
where the investment is going, not the other way around.
For instance, if you were going to come up with a business now, you go down the environmental eco bullshit road.
So they're driving people into, here's this cash, but if you don't tick these boxes, you can't have this cash. So they're automatically steering you into that world, whether people want to go down there or not. Because they'll probably say, oh, we'll tick these green boxes, but we're still going to do this anyway. What they don't realise is once they're in, that money's for them green things.
They're following the agenda.
To follow the agenda.
So those 12 different countries developing flying cars have inadvertently pushed the agenda. They probably don't even know it themselves, do they?
Well, there'll have been some sort of funding from somewhere to say, this is what's probably going to happen. I mean, who started all that? Cross-eyed Bezos. He started all that with the drone delivery thing. All that type of stuff.
They were going to trial that in Cambridge. Cambridge, but
it'll happen.
I think it got pushed back for legal reasons, but it will happen.
Also, the robot Uber cars.
Yeah. Well, they've also got in Cambridge. They've got robot delivery robot systems.
Right.
I've got a picture of them, actually. I'll have to send it to you. Little robots that deliver you fast food.
Well, that's like Drone Wars. Like the Star Wars, isn't it? Really, it's just dropping all drones off. They all run out, deliver your pizzas, and come back into mothership and set off again.
It was funny because we bumped into me and my daughter were dropping some parcels off at the post office, and we saw like these 25 robots outside this like industrial unit. And I said to the guy, "What's this then?" So I was taking a picture of them, and he went, "Oh, they takeaway delivery units." I said, "Did they ever get damaged?" And he said, "Yeah, people kick fuck out of them, and
Right.
And I went, "Oh, that's a shame." And it was not really, because if they don't, I don't have a job because I mend them.
Yeah, fair point. All right. Well, I think should we discuss those films on another one, because we're going to run out of time otherwise, I think.
Yeah.
Or do you want to go into? Yeah. Well, what we're going to do now, what we're going to do is there's a couple of films that we're going to talk about, won't there?
Which films?
I think Zootopia,
Yeah,
Zootropolis.
yeah.
I brought up some.
Ah,
I don't know
yes,
if
yes.
anybody's watched
Yeah.
that. The Zootropolis, I think it's called.
Yeah, I've watched it a couple of times.
Well, there are a few things in that film to get a child's mind on the 30 agenda, whatever it is, that you look at that, it were very the woke environment where it was quite LGBT, let's just say.
To be fair,
agenda.
there's a million things in that film, isn't there?
But some of the main
the one
main
thing
ones,
the one thing you noticed is the main
Yeah.
thing that I mean,
Yeah.
I never noticed. I've watched it 3 times. Maybe.
Well, there were two things, weren't there? One, the predators weren't predators anymore. So the males were now basically dumbed down, useless objects. If you remember that, at the beginning, there were that police guy, the police guy on reception is a lion and he's gay.
Yeah.
And he's
Or
overweight.
He's like a panther or a leopard or something.
Yeah, he's overweight.
Then you've got Idris Elba plays the bull, and he's just angry.
And he's angry constantly.
Bit of a knob, yeah.
Yeah, but all these male representatives were all predators, and they all got shot by a poison dart that sent them rogue.
Yeah.
Predators, and they were all male. So all the bad guys, predators, were male, and all the non-predators were female.
Yeah,
and they were the ones in charge.
yeah.
The fox was a male. The female cop was a rabbit.
The only one who wasn't a predator was actually Idris Elba, who played like a bull, but he was an angry bull with horns, like.
Yeah, but he's a predator. Bull's a predator. You class a bull as a predator, wouldn't you?
Well, what I mean is not a predator per se with sharp teeth, but yeah, he was still playing the predator character.
Character, yeah. And so these are how they get. And also, they were shot with a poison dart that sent them mad.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of other things in there, weren't there?
Well, I'm sure on an esoteric level, there's tons of stuff in there. But what's interesting is all the I mean, when was that? Is that like a 10-year-old film now? Was it?
Not quite 10, I don't think. I think more like 5 or 6. But yeah,
but they were basically throwing to kids that toxic masculinity. All those males they're all predators. They all want to murder and rape you, which is literally what's happened in the last couple of years. And you've got to believe that was put in there on purpose at that point in time. For these kids growing up, going subconsciously, predators are always male.
Yeah, and then you wind it on and say, if you sat on a train and somebody stares at you for longer than 2 seconds, or that means that they're a predator.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so much in that film.
There's also like Zootropolis is the utopia. Then outside that is the dark world, but which they left alone until it came into their world.
Yeah.
But which again, it draws that.
You're right. They're in Zootopia. They're in Utopia, aren't they? Living in
where
she comes from. She's living in like lovely farmland, and then but her dream is to go to Zootopia,
to the city,
in the city,
make it.
Yeah,
which is an old story in effect, isn't it? But
but then she gets to her first place where she lives, and it's a shithole, tiny. In fact, do you know what, Fire? I was literally guilty of that story. I left our, where we lived, and we lived in.
We all were, Chris.
Farm.
We all wanted to make something of ourselves.
Lived in a box room in London, but I was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, we all want to make something of ourselves, and we all got conned, and that is the sad fact. But was there another film that you were mentioning as well, or something that you were talking about? Have I got that right, or am I making that up?
Don't know which film.
I can't remember. I thought you'd written it down.
I did have an interesting idea, which was this, right? And I thought about this for a comic strip years ago. And I wrote down here, and I thought about a soul arcade, right? So imagine, right? You know an arcade that you used to go into in the 80s. So imagine souls, these light beings that live in wherever the hell they live, and our little place where we are now is literally an arcade, and these souls go there as like this light thing. They go in the arcade, like, and it is an arcade, as in a 1980s version of an arcade, and they play the Earth game, and then you can last for 8 to 9 years, you can last for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But maybe that's why we were all attracted to arcades as kids, because that is literally what we're in. We're in just a
Tron
soul arcade. Yeah,
stimulation.
yeah.
But again, that comes back. That's what we're going to talk about. Avatar. We're
Avatar.
going to talk
That's right.
about not because nobody's ever thought about Avatar being some sort of
Yeah,
reality to it, but if you think of what I was thinking was that when Christian Eriksen went down, I'll use him as an example in that football match
yeah.
last year, and then went and brought him back round again. Imagine in that Avatar film where when that guy was the guy who played the main character,
Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington, he was in that pod.
Yeah,
And that guy on that big grabber,
yeah.
baddie, came
And
in
he
and smashed it
cracked it
all up
open,
and
didn't it? Yeah,
cracked it open, yeah. So his avatar just dropped at floor, which is
yeah,
very similar to what happened to that guy who was
yeah,
playing football, yeah. And then somebody else came in and managed to put him in another pod,
yeah.
and he came back to life
Revitalise it back to life.
revitalised him back to life.
Yeah.
Now, that looks very similar to me.
What? So the footballer on the field got revitalised because someone actually just moved him and fucking put him in a new. My God, yeah.
But the
I mean,
humans on the field, the people on the field thought they'd
that all
done
fits
it.
into the story, their little story. Which
Yeah,
which
that
is
fits into that
it's
little story.
an exact replica version, if you think about it. It doesn't look like it, but it's an exact replica of Matrix,
Yes, yes.
where you get switched off here and you die over there. Switched off there
Yeah.
and you die over there.
Yeah. But in reality, you haven't died, have you?
No.
They've just turned you off.
Yeah.
The difference with Avatar, I suppose, is you actually were living in the same life, weren't you? Whereas the Matrix,
It's
you
the
were in a
exact same
different.
thing, though. It's the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
it
You
is.
are
Yeah,
still in
you're
an
right. Yeah,
you're still an avatar, aren't you? Just not a digital avatar. You're
yeah,
they made it more. I mean, and to be fair, taking on the fact that James Cameron wrote Avatar and the Wachowskis wrote Matrix, I honestly would hazard a guess that is literally playing with the truth.
yeah.
That we are avatars. Well, we are avatars. Even if you take the biblical version of it, right, where these people walking around and we're a soul somewhere else, and we've been
Yeah.
put into this version of this vehicle, if you like, for a set amount
Well,
of
again,
time.
the energy.
Maybe even thinking about this. How about this? That this person we're walking around in is just a school, So the souls, they walk the little glowing soul children to school and go, get in there because you need to learn some stuff. And they put you in the unit, wherever it is, and then you go to Earth for 90 years. And you learn a load of stuff. Then you come out and you go, "What did you learn at school today, darling?" Oh well,
Earth school. Yeah.
yeah. And it was just 90 years, but 90 years to them is nothing,
Well, is it 90 years, or is
Well,
it you go to sleep and you're not here? Is
well,
that why
what I
people
mean
are
is
getting?
in their version of the world,
Yeah.
in the glowing soul orb version of the world, it's 3 hours, 4 hours. To us,
Yeah.
it's 90 years.
Yeah.
And then
We're just
you've
nice,
learned
aren't we? Yeah.
you've learned X amount of lessons in that 90 years. And then you come out and you go, "Oh yeah, I learned this today, Mum." And
Yeah. Which again answers the question that people aren't learning any, and where the sun download, as I'll call it now, that we've had over the last 2 years in comparison to the previous 20 years has been we've had more information passed down to. I don't think some people can handle it, hence why there's a lot of mental illness or people. I also think it's been infiltrated by whoever these dark forces are to try and stop us from growing.
Well, to simplify it, is through all this nonsense, you've had a choice, haven't you? You've had a choice. Do you learn, or do you cower, or do you go along with it?
Go along with it. Yeah.
What do you do? You've literally been given a choice.
Yeah.
So your learning curve, if you are that glowing orb wherever, and you've been planted here to learn, is you've got a choice. There's
I
always a
mean,
choice.
the Earth School, Sun Download, whatever, it's a similar sort of principle, really, because if it is an Earth School, or whatever Earth is, Creator School, whatever you want to call it, where people are given certain experiences here for a certain period of time, and that Sun Download is entering us, but it's more of a controlled mechanism rather than something that's just happening by chance.
Mm.
Because
Yeah,
that person,
well, I don't believe there's any chance involved. To be fair, Fight. I think
no
it's
chance involved. It's not a random thing, is it?
no.
And
And these psychos that run this world know it was coming. I would.
when you think about it, Chris, right? The 5% of people, or the people that, we'll call it wake up for whatever you want to call it. I hate that term, but that realise, we never get much more, do we? There's not like all of a sudden 50% people wake up.
No.
For argument's sake, never been like that. There's always the same amount. So maybe we're put in as players in this, and all the NPCs, and then there's a controlling force that are controlling the NPCs to stop us learning or put us off learning. Because let's face it, we never meet the controlling force, do we? We only meet the order takers ever.
Well, and also maybe it was a chance, like with the internet. So the internet got released by whoever, and maybe it was
Tim
a gamble.
Berners-Lee, Sir Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah, but maybe it was a gamble from their point, because at their point they knew this: if we do this, if we have the internet and we give it to everybody, we can gain total control. But there is also a chance that like-minded people like me, you, and numerous other people we've talked to over the last year or two will meet as well. So we've got to counteract that by going full steam ahead with all our bullshit, because even though the internet itself will allow us the ability to really dominate society and the world, it will also allow these people, and I mean these people in a weird way, like these people dotted all over the world will actually come together and they'll end up meeting each other, and we don't want them to meet each other ever. We never wanted them to meet each other, and they're going to meet each other. So we need to make this pay off big time, because if these fuckers meet each other, we could be in trouble.
They could screw everything up.
Yeah. I mean, we're just talking. We don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And maybe our role from this Sun School is that we are in control of knowledge, or the ability to absorb knowledge and pass it on to other people, and take all the ridicule and anger and things like that, but still carry on passing it on. Not just us, but people listening, people like Mark Devlin, Rise Above guys, Richard Dior,
and everybody listening to
Mark
this,
Marzinsky, everybody, Richie Allen.
Also, you don't matter if you've got this far into this that we're talking about now. You also are, you think the same as we do.
Yeah,
and like I said, we are just talking. We don't know anything. It's guesswork and putting ideas out there, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's definitely something. Why? Again, same question. Why are we like this? That means we're the odd ones out here. We are the odd ones out. Maybe we're the infiltrators. Maybe we've been put here to infiltrate the system, not the dark forces, the occult, that are here to try and point us out.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I never thought of it.
Maybe it's the other way around.
So this is a dark world, and we're the bad guys.
Yeah, we're upsetting their world. We're lifting the rock on their world. By trying to do good, we're actually doing bad.
If that's the case, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, but there can't be many other reasons, because why would we put ourselves through all this? There's no reason to it. It's a damn sight easier being an NPC and thinking that the arm spears are going to work and everything.
Well,
and the Kardashians are fantastic and all this type of thing. Isn't it? It is a damn sight easier.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to retread old ground, but it's like that Matrix thing in it with what's his name? What's he called? Finds out with the guy who eats the steak and says, "It'd just be easier if I just ate the steak."
Yeah. But yeah, anyway. So right, let's talk about Jerry. I think that deserves quite a long chat, that, to be honest with you. I think we need to do the Sun School, Sun Download. Deserves
well, to be fair, all that
might be good for a live chat, actually.
But all that was just discussion we've had over the last couple of weeks. So it's It's all theoretical. There's no answers there, is there, at all?
No.
But it's interesting to see what people say about that because
But the way I can see what we do opening up, I was thinking this the other day. I mentioned to you that quite a while ago now that I could feel myself heading into a different realm, and that's not been the timing is a natural timing, not like all right, it's third or whatever, and I need to do it now. But I think from my personal point of view, all the research that I do, it's got me to a certain point, and I've proved to me myself, I've got to that point, and now it's time to alter and just slightly change, utilizing the same sort of research but in a different direction.
right.
And also when we talk like we've done tonight, there's getting less and less notes. We're just talking, and that's this comes back to that inner knowledge, the true knowledge that we've got, not the bits that are written on a piece of paper. That where we can talk about this stuff openly that we've discussed for a long time.
Yeah, and you come out with
And
realizations as you go along. Well, I
yeah,
would say, if to be fair, from your perspective and my perspective, we're both eased into each other's way of perspective, if you like.
yes,
Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So you've come from a health perspective and also a history and information perspective. I've always been a bit of a feeler
yeah.
and talk shit and but over the years we've
Well, I went on as you know, I went on a spiritual journey in the 2000s. Before I did all the health stuff. I started studying psychology.
It's all the same stuff. That's
all
the
the
thing. That's the
meditation
point.
stuff I was doing. Yeah, it's all the same thing. It is all the same thing. It's just that some people learn one thing first, other people learn something else. This comes back to that Sun School as well. That if we're absorbing information at different points, why are people who are in the truth movement or whatever not all at the same point? I'm not saying we're further on than anybody or further behind than anybody. Some people know stuff that we don't know, and we might never understand ever, even if they explain it to us.
In fact, I'm not that learned in anything.
No,
I
no,
just
but
follow
I don't think
instinct.
we need to be because
No.
that's part of the
No,
the lie, isn't it?
but also that's exactly that's part of the lie that you need a PhD, you need to be educated, you need no, you don't. You
Yeah.
need to follow your fucking instincts
Yes,
and your gut.
because that's the true life, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's true life, not.
but that is the biggest cheat they've ever done. I've
Yes,
seen youngsters because obviously I work in kitchens and and everyone going through that world is going to university, and you see this excitement that they've been told that they're brilliant because they're going to go to university. I'm not knocking going to university, by the way. I'm not trying to be like that because I ain't got any education whatsoever. But it's not necessary,
no.
I mean, you've heard that quote, haven't you? When people say, "Oh, shoot, they're really academic, but they're not really that intelligent." I mean, fucking hell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
They've
is
got no
actually
common sense. They're
no
academic, but
common
they've got no
sense.
common
Yeah.
sense.
So you thick as
So
fuck.
so
you thick as fuck.
so you're thick as fuck. Let's get this right then. So these scientists that have been telling us to stay in, wear face nappies, have an untried or tested jibbery jabbery witchcraft.
I would hazard a guess that
They've
it
got
is
no common
tried and
sense.
tested, by the way.
I would hazard a guess that all of it's been tried and tested.
Yeah. We haven't
Yeah,
been informed.
but yeah,
But yeah, they've got no
and
common sense. So we should listen to
they've
that
got
guy.
no common sense. Yeah, just
Because
trust him. He's got no common sense.
yeah.
He's got no kids, no
I
common
would
sense.
definitely go with the guy who's got some street smarts about him than some fucking numpty in a
Well,
tab.
I won't go with anybody because I've met people with street smarts as well who are not with what we're talking about. So I know quite a few people in business who aren't in business who've got street smarts, but wouldn't even sit down. My neighbour who we're talking to today. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's not stupid.
But this
And
is
he
where
even,
it
even came up to me and said, he came up to me, I can't remember now, a year ago, 6 months ago, and said, "What you were saying were right, Dom."
right.
I said, "I don't want to be right. Yeah,
But then
that's
he
not
went
what
off.
it's about. This,
So
however,
before the
but
nonsense.
but it's still been 3 dart finished.
Right. This is what we're saying. This is where it polarizes everybody because everyone who hasn't been 3 dart finished or who has and didn't really want and regrets it or whatever. This is where it polarizes everybody. But
Yes.
but also the worry is this.
It ain't polarized us.
But is this where the robot dogs come and hunt us down? I don't give a shit, by
I
the
don't
way.
think that, personally, I don't think they go to that extreme because it's a spiritual war that's meant to look like it's a physical war.
Yeah.
I think
So do you
that,
think the robot dogs are put out there just to make people like us think fucking all the robot dogs
yeah,
might come after us?
and that they're going to test
Do you
your
think
toilet
Terminator
water and stuff like that.
and do you think Terminator was put out there as a film, just to make people fear?
Who knows, Chris? We
Yeah,
might be the anti-Terminators come back from the
we could.
future
I could.
to change,
I
to
could be Sarah
adjust.
Connor.
You could be Sarah Connor. In that vest you are.
But then you reach a point, don't you? And you think, I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck anymore. Anyway,
You just need to take them fried egg stains off it, like Rabsy Nesbitt. And on that note, right, we'll stop. We're going to talk about Jerry Mazinski.
Yeah.
I've got to say, we've enjoyed every single person we've spoken to.
Yeah.
But if there's anybody that's made an impact on, I say our life, but my life, not because of the person he is, although he's a nice guy, but because the information was so different and resonated with us that in a way that I'd never heard before. It was something I'd never heard before. And
well, I said to Jerry when we spoke to him, I can't remember if I actually said it on the podcast or if it was off air, but he changed the way I thought about things.
Yeah.
Absolutely changed the way I thought about things. And I was saying to him that I heard him being discussed on another podcast and he looked surprised. I don't think he realises the impact he's making.
No.
And
And because he's an honest guy, he talks. This is what he talks about. He's not interested in. Well, he's interested in other stuff, but I mean, we spoke to him about other things, and he didn't even know that were happening or not happening. I think we opened a rabbit.
Well, I think like everyone else,
hole
he's on a learning curve, isn't he? He's on a learning curve like anyone else.
But the information he's carried about these internal voices that are coming from an external place, again, does that answer what we're talking about with the Sun School? Are they coming from there? They're coming from a different place. Could it be government that are tuning into people's mind? But then again, how come people were going psychotic 150 years ago? That doesn't make sense then, does it?
Well,
So
it couldn't make sense on a level, Fatty, that there's a place not here that has got the technology, and we were left in the dark.
Yes.
There's
so many
that's
different
the fascinating thing.
explanations.
That is the fascinating thing about the Jerry Marzinsky stuff is it can mean anything. I ain't got a fucking clue, and none of us have got a clue. But it's fascinating.
There's some truth to it.
There's something there, and it's fascinating. And also, someone's trying to hide it as well. So you're not allowed to talk about it. As soon as you're not allowed to talk about something, there's something there, surely.
But they're not allowed to talk about it. Bit. Why wouldn't you be able, right, as part of your training? Yeah, and I know we sort of talk about this in the interview. If somebody were hearing voices, right?
First thing I want to know.
You've got all these drugs, right? You've got all these drugs, right? So you're going to give them drugs anyway. Yeah. Surely, right? It'd be interesting to know.
You just lean over. You'd lean over and go, "What are they saying?" Just out of interest.
What are these voices saying?
Yeah.
Right? And there's only a handful of people. Well, one or two or three. I mean, in Jerry's book, he talks about a couple of people.
1800s.
There's not many people come out and said, "I've asked them what they've said." I remember asking a friend of mine, Skinny's mother-in-law, his ex-mother-in-law, and she were put inside, and they took her inside, and she had a tinfoil hat on, right?
What? She actually wore a tinfoil hat?
She actually wore a tinfoil. Now,
but again, I'm laughing. I'm laughing, but is that an actual truth? The tinfoil hat stops the voices.
Skinny said, right, she wore a tinfoil hat, and I actually said to her, I didn't say to her, I said to him, right?
It's not funny.
No, I know, because it's been put in his mind that people who wear tinfoil hats, right?
Yeah.
But I said, ask her if it stops the voices. This was before I'd even heard Jerry.
Right.
This was 5 years ago. This was 5 years ago. And she said yes.
Fucking hell. So, but that's a Faraday cage, isn't it?
Yeah.
For your brain. It's a Faraday cage.
Now, whether it only works on her, but so we go from, you've got all these pills over here. We're going to give you these anyway because you're nuts and we've sectioned you. However, what do the voices say? Also, if I put this foil over your head, have the voices stopped now?
Yeah.
Because to me, all right, I'm untrained, you're untrained, people listening are untrained, or most of them are. That seems pretty reasonable. Does
Yeah.
that? There's
So
no,
so actually,
you're
the
not.
tinfoil hat is the answer. If you're getting bombarded by voices, a tinfoil hat is the answer, and they've been
Well,
ridiculing it for fucking 20 years.
is that a download? Is it another download from dark forces that are telling you all these dark things? It's just not a
Yeah.
dissimilar thing from our download that's telling us information about what we should and shouldn't be doing. It's not a right
Yeah.
lot different, that, Chris.
No.
It's entering your brain. Now, there are probably other stuff that you could spin off from that. So we've got the drugs, right? What are these things saying? When do the same to you?
Yeah.
You could go into loads of detail on these. Do you just get one voice or are there several? When I sit and talk to you, tell me who's speaking. Give one of them a name.
Yeah. Well,
I could carry on, but
yeah, but that's what Jerry was doing, but he was doing it in the fear of getting caught. What it
yes,
should be, that should be a mass discussion and
right. They
conversation.
love collecting data on people. Love
Yeah.
it. They love
Collecting data
even
on
now
that,
checking your piss under your house. Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Just had a shit. It
And
just
yeah,
goes through.
a simple question to someone who's hearing voices
Yeah.
is that who's saying it? What they're saying? How many people are there?
Yeah. That should be the most interesting version of that story. I'm hearing voices. What are they saying?
Yeah,
How are they saying
yeah,
it? In what tone
yeah.
are they saying it?
That don't mean to say you let people out to run riot.
And then I always
Or
think about the other guy, Fatty, who we interviewed, and he said it sounded like
George. Yeah,
George sounded like technology. And he said when he got and I would recommend everyone listens to all the Jeremy Marzinsky interviews we've done, because we interviewed George, and he said when he got further from his house, the voices got quieter, so he believed it was technology on some level.
somebody sent me a picture of George with a badge on saying he'd been 3-dart finished. Now, this just goes to show that, and when you hear the guy that's on tonight, he's called Anon, he don't want to give his name, that a lot of people, even though
Different
they're
thing.
hearing things like this, yeah, it doesn't mean to say they're into all the things that we are.
Yeah.
But I actually take that as more realistic because they're saying it in an innocent way. Like Jerry talks about it in an innocent way that, Jerry goes on about the
Well,
farmer
his
mafia.
main anger is the big pharma mafia.
Yeah, that are handing
So
drugs out like confetti.
it's almost like his the voice thing's almost like a sidestep. And I mean, when you see Jerry, he's like he's amazed that this is happening.
And we don't know, right, if these drugs that are handed out in illegal drugs that open this portal for people, and then the psychotic drugs, we don't know if this has been monitored in somewhere else. We don't know this, yeah. I can't see him just handing them out. You think, right, you've got the CIA and you've got people who they know might be in conversation with other entities from another whatever world dimension, whatever it is, and they won't be interested. It's bollocks. What they would do is put a smoke screen up and say we're not interested. They're just all nuts, throw them away.
Well, the schizophrenics are definitely silenced, aren't they? Definitely kept silent. And then you think back to the old days, would they'd have been prophets? Would they have been prophets, or I don't know, who knows? But they've been silenced. They've been silenced by drugs.
Yeah.
But in the old days, they would have been exercised. So there'd have been an exorcism. And like Jerry said, that if they use the Psalm 23, I can't remember which one it was, he said they go silent instantly. So therefore, then, I mean, I don't know what the biblical level of anything is, but the fact that these voices go silent because they hear a passage out of the Bible, what the hell is that about?
Well,
What
again,
is
it's
that
words,
about?
isn't it? The spells, aren't there? Maybe
Yeah,
these
yeah.
spells, like in the Wizard of Oz, where the wizard that witch gets water thrown on and dissolves. Maybe that's what these spells do to these other
Who
entities.
knows?
Yeah,
Who bloody knows? Who
But
knows?
I think you're going to enjoy this. So we'll play part of this after we've just finished now. There are a few cracks and pops on this. I don't know what was going on with Zoom the other night, but we really enjoyed and still enjoy talking to Jerry.
No, and also, Dom, just quickly talk about Anon, because his story is fantastical.
Yeah, Anon's story is fantastical. I mean, he's gone down the religious route. I talk about my experiences with voices because I used to say, Chris, do you get these voices in your head? Now,
Yeah,
not necessarily. Go on.
no, we're going to say you thought I was bullshitting you. So you were like, and when the voices are screaming at you and you can silence
Mm,
them. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
yeah,
I really don't know what you're on.
that goes a lot with people who got Lyme disease. They call
Parasite.
them.
It's a parasite.
It's a parasite, but they call them intrusive thoughts. That's what they call them.
But I mean, what the
Um,
fuck does that mean, Fire? So you had parasites that you were shitting out basically without being graphic. And
you can't not be graphic with that, Chris.
yeah. But you've told me that when they were being expelled from your body, you could hear them screaming. And then you told
Yeah,
me that story when you said, when I always remember it because I came up north to see you and you said, I sat outside the other day and I managed to silence the screaming, the voices. And I was like,
yeah,
what the fuck are you talking about?
yeah.
So,
That went on. That went on in me for 10 years.
I mean, I'm not surprised you had anger issues, Fire.
I know.
Because I was saying to you, you were saying, do you have, you were talking to me like I should have that. And I was like, I don't have that. I
Like
mean,
it's pretty normal.
everyone has voices, when you can't sleep or whatever. But the way you described it, I was like, my God, what are you talking about?
But I mean, these things start to dissipate when I start doing the parasite cleanse, and
Yeah.
I've got the herbs and ozone to thank for that.
But you said
They started.
you said when you expelled them, you heard them screaming going down the bog without
Yeah,
being
it was a
graphic.
silent scream, I'd call it,
Yeah.
like a dog whistle would be to a dog,
So
where we can't hear it.
So what
And
the fuck is that for?
but that was like an exorcism. That's what it felt like. And it
Is
and
that what an exorcism is? Is that what it is?
but it were and every again. I don't. I'll put this on quite late. Then you're not having your tea. But every time you went to the toilet, it was an experience. That's all I can say. But it weren't like
Like having a good Bradford curry.
it reminded me of Alien. It reminded me of
Right.
Alien. That's what it reminded me of. But anyway, that's another story, I suppose. But yeah, so Anon has a very good story, and he's got a great story to tell, and his knowledge is excellent as well. Yeah.
It's a crazy story, but he seemed like a very genuine guy.
Yeah,
A really nice guy as well.
Yeah, and it also links into Jerry's story because he was incarcerated, signed into a mental institute.
No, he wasn't incarcerated. Fine.
Sorry, he wasn't incarcerated. Sorry, he was sectioned.
He wouldn't say he
He
worked in
had
a
to go in for a month.
no, but he worked in a prison and a hospital.
No, not Jerry.
All right, sorry.
Anon.
You just said Jerry was sectioned.
No, well, sorry if I said Jerry, I didn't mean Jerry. I meant Anon was sectioned.
Right,
Jerry
yeah.
Jerry hadn't been sectioned. He worked with
He probably should be.
schizophrenics. Yeah, if I'd have gone through what he'd been through, I think I would have
I'd
been.
be sectioned, yeah.
But yeah, so I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time at some point. Bye. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sheep Farm. And tonight we've got on a couple of guests. One, an old friend who's been on 3 times before, Jerry Marzinsky. And I'll just flick through Jerry's resume, I suppose it is, Jerry. Jerry is a retired licensed psychotherapist with over 40 years experience. He has worked and studied the thought processes of psychotic and criminally insane patients in some of the most volatile psychiatric institutions in the US. He has held positions of second lieutenant in the Arizona Civil Air Patrol and an assistant scoutmaster. His formal academic training comprises of a BA in psychology from Temple University and a master's degree in counseling from the University of Georgia. Now, Jerry is also the author of a book that I must say, me and Chris have read it, and I've read it 2 or 3 times now, at least, well, twice at least anyway. And I think it's a book that most people who are interested, if they're interested in this subject, should
There it is.
read it. Yeah. It's The Amazing Journey of the Psychotic Mind, Breaking the Spell of the Ivory Tower. And it's a read, and I'll put the links to where you can get that book from, that will take you on a proper journey as well. So with me tonight, as usual, is Chris, and we've also got another guest he's not going to give his name out. It's called Anon. He wants to stay anonymous, so we'll call him Anon throughout this. Evening, Chris.
Good evening. You all right, guys?
And evening, Jerry.
Hey,
Welcome
nice to see
back.
you again, Jerry. Nice
good
to
to
meet
be
you,
here.
Yeah. Well, you're not sort of back. You're still in warm Arizona. I'm in cold Yorkshire, England.
Well, too warm, Arizona.
Right, too warm Arizona. And Anon's in the US as well. I bet it ain't raining as much as it is here at times. Although we've had it quite warm up here recently. It's been all right. Right, so where do we want to start off, Jerry? I know you said you had something you wanted to get into prior to us speaking to Anon, but I suppose if anybody wants to jump in between what you're saying, if we've got important parts, then please jump in.
Yeah, if anything resonates with you, I'm just kind of give a history of the psychiatric mafia here. So
your friends at the psychiatric mafia.
My friends at the psychiatric mafia. So I've been on the front lines of mental health for close to 4 decades. I worked 7 years at the biggest state psychiatric institution on the planet. You know, when I got there, I think there were about 12,000 patients there. It was the size of a small city. So there was every psychiatric diagnosis that you could ever imagine there. And I was fascinated by abnormal psychology. So it sounds weird, but I was like a kid in a candy store. You know, it's like everything was there. You know, everything I've ever read about was there, and I could see it. Because when you're studying psychology, what I hated the most is you had to believe what they were telling you. You couldn't get your hands on a clinical population. You know, you had to assume that what they were telling you was the truth. And I never trusted authority. You know, and some of the stuff they were telling me, even before I had access to a clinical population, sounded way out to me. But how could you challenge it? You know, they're telling you this is the truth. You memorize it, you regurgitate it back on the test, and then you pass. And then when I got out into real life and saw what was really going on the front lines, that stuff didn't prepare me for anything that I actually saw on the front lines. I mean, it was just, so, you know, I spent several years working in county psychiatric hospitals. I've worked in mental health centers. I worked in private psychiatric hospitals. Spent 18 years working in the psychology department of a state prison. Last 10 years I spent in working in large hospitals doing psych crisis in their emergency rooms. And now I'm in private practice. So I've worked all the facets. I've been to everything. I've been every facet of mental health. I've been there. And I'm going to tell you that this is stuff, these are places you'd never get into. They would not allow you in. You'd never get to see this stuff. You would never get past the front door. And if you did, you'd be escorted heavily. You know, they'd say, oh, it's too dangerous for you to come in here, or, oh, it's against the rules. You know, they wouldn't let you in there. So what I basically saw was the mental health system is badly broken. And the Western mental health system is badly broken.
Do you think it's broken, Jerry, or do you think it's part of a purposely driven plan?
Well, yeah, but it's broken. It's broken for us. Yeah. It's broken for us, the people. Yeah. But it's not broken for big pharma and the psychiatric mafia. They've created a huge, deceptive, drug-fueled merry-go-round that they bring these people into the psych hospitals. They charge them up the yin yang. They bill their insurance. They've several $1,000s before you get out of there. They fill you full of drugs. They give you a prescription, let you go out again. The people get sick of taking that stuff because they're very toxic. They feel really bad. They turned you into a zombie. They quit taking them, and then they come back again, and they do the same thing over and over and over again. They're not curing. They're not solving anything. They're just basically drugging your brain and turning you into a zombie and charging you a fortune to do it.
They had the same problem with opioids, especially in the US, didn't they?
Yeah.
Wiping out 50,000 people a year. So you've got two hands of the same brush, haven't you? You've got the opioids that are wiping people out, and then you've got the psychotics that are also wiping people out.
Well, and these drugs don't cure anything. They merely turn them into a zombie. And the other thing you will notice on the front lines is there are no researchers there. In the close to 40 years that I spent on all these different institutions on the front lines, there were no researchers there. There was nobody looking into anything. All the research was being done by drug-funded universities that, you know, hey, we'll give you, we'll fund this for you. We'll give you this much money if we want these results. Da, 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 da. You know, so they actually control the universities. So they brainwash these people. Look at what I had to go through to just to get access to a clinical population. It was 6 years, 4 years of psychology, 2 years in the master's degree. And you know, I could get in by then, 2 years in the PhD program, but there was nothing to learn there. They knew nothing. You know, I'm sitting here looking at them, and here's all these years I've been sitting on the front, and these people knew nothing about what was really going on. You know, and it was like, you memorize this shit and you regurgitate it back to us, and then we'll give you a degree. But it had nothing to do with the real world. You know, so yeah, no researchers. Only, you know, the big pharma funds the universities. They bought off the U.S. Congress for their own benefit. You have to jump through all those hoops just to get access to a clinical population. You won't have.
And then you're on your own. You're on your own as well.
Well, yeah, you're on your own, and I remember when I came into it, it was like, you know, why isn't anybody curious about what the voices are, what the voices are telling these people? You know, it was like it's like they already knew because they've been taught in the universities. You know, oh, we already know what the voices are. They're hallucinations. You know, psychiatry says they're hallucinations. The university said they're hallucinations, but there's no research whatsoever on that topic, except for what I've done over 4 decades. You know?
In fairness, Jerry, there probably is research, isn't there? But not the research that we've been told, because this goes deeper than like what we're discussing now. Someone out there knows this information. You know, it's taken you to discover this for the general public, but someone behind the scenes obviously knows what the hell's going on.
Well, you know who knows what's going on is the schizophrenics.
Yeah,
but then if they try to,
or maybe the
try
CIA.
to tell psychiatrists,
yeah, or maybe the CIA,
maybe the CIA,
or you know, these type of places.
Like you said, Jerry, they're trained to not discuss it even. I mean,
oh no, you know, when they caught me asking questions about what the voices were telling these guys, I ended up in front of the medical director on the red carpet.
Surely should be the most interesting subject. If you're studying schizophrenics, it should be the most interesting. Even if it is all in the head, shouldn't it be the most interesting documented area of it? You would have thought so, wouldn't you?
No, that's what surprised me. None of them wanted to know what the voices were saying to these people. None of them. Not the nurses, because they already knew. They've been taught in college,
you
know, that they're hallucinations. That's what they've been told. That's what they've been programmed to believe. But the more I looked into it, the clearer it became that they are far from hallucinations.
That makes more sense to me than the normal version of it. Makes more sense that they are actually voices. I mean,
Yeah, they don't ask you what the voices are. They just check off if you're dealing with a psychiatrist or psychologist on the issue. They ask, are you hearing voices? And they check a box, yes or no. They don't ask you, what are the voices saying? What's the meaning behind them? They ignore it. They treat the voices as being meaningless, but the voices have meaning to the patient.
Oh yeah, they had, big time.
The voices, if you went in with the other illnesses, they'd ask you what the symptoms are. And the voices really are the symptoms, aren't they?
They are.
They don't ask you what the symptoms are.
They are, but they ignore that whole thing. You know, there's no spiritual aspect whatsoever to psychology and psychiatry.
No.
You know,
well, there isn't to anything anymore, Jerry, is there? That's what's been drained out there.
Well, a lot of it was devised by Sigmund Freud. So what can we expect?
No,
well, Carl Jung went the other way on that.
Yeah.
So what they do is they just drug you. You know, they pour psych drugs on your brain, and you think, with all the drugs that they have now, all the new drugs and these powerful antipsychotics and antidepressants, that society would be in a better shape than it ever was. But it's the exact opposite. The population is in worse shape than it's ever been. The CDC says that we have hit the highest suicide rates since World War II, even with all psychiatric mafias, psych drugs and antidepressants and all this other crap they have. You know, there's
a local story around here, Chris, this week in one of the local cities, Bradford, in their local paper, said since the communist lockdowns began, in 2020, suicide rates have gone up 50%.
50%.
In one city, 50%, boom.
And they're quite difficult to find, the suicide rates, because we've looked for the last.
They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know, Chris.
Yeah.
They're not going to report on that.
And when you think as well, the thing I'm sure it's the same over there. They're selling the mental health thing, discussions of mental health. But what it actually does is make people go and discuss the mental health and end up on drugs anyway.
Yeah.
It's literally a sales pitch, isn't it?
It's a friggin', the psychiatric mafia is just pill pushers for big pharma. They're not curing anything with these drugs. Nothing gets cured.
Well, look what we've seen over the last 2 years. I mean, they've been pushing the biggest one, haven't they? I mean, they didn't make any profit out of it, of course, even though the government's all paid for it. But look how much money's been generated through that one.
Yeah, big time. So, we have some older stats here from 2006 to 2016. Suicides have increased in the US by 2% a year, with 1.4 million suicide attempts. And in 2017, 47,000 people succeeded in killing themselves with the psychiatric mafia at the helm of the ship.
That's the size of all the dead in Vietnam on the US side.
Yeah,
more or less.
There was like 50,000 in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So, and all this is ignored. So here's a psychiatric mafia at the helm of the ship going, more drugs. So we got, go see the psychiatrist if you got problems. This is what's happening.
It's not just about that though, is it, Jerry? Because if you think, what was the number you said that people attempted suicide?
1.4 million.
Right. So
suicide, and that's just in the US.
Yeah. So you've got 47,000 people actually do it, and 1.4 million attempt to do it. Can you imagine the trauma on the families as well that are left or that have got to go through their husband, child, wife, whatever attempt? That trauma is with you forever, whether you like it or not.
And it spreads out.
It's because of the lack of a hope. That's what somebody does to suicide, lack of hope. And with all the stuff going on in the world today, between pandemics, global warming and everything, people are losing hope. And that's the thing. We got to get the hope back inside of ourselves. That's how we're going to heal as a species.
And it spreads and it affects all the family members. It affects all the friends, So, you look at this and the prisons are full of psychotic prisoners because they shut down all the state hospitals. They shut down all the mental hospitals, and the only hospitals working now are these merry-go-round things run by the psychiatric mafia and big pharma. Bring them in, drug them silly, and then turn them loose and make them take the drugs. And they're told that the schizophrenia is a lifelong disease, which is bullcrap. It can be cured, but not with drugs. So schizophrenia is among the top 10 health problems on the planet. The suicide rate for schizophrenics is 3 times that of the general population, but the suicide attempts or the suicide successful attempts by psychiatrists are equal. Psychiatrists are killing themselves at 3 times the rate of the general population.
All right, here's a question. Do you think these entities are jumping from patient to psychiatrist?
Well, I can tell you psychiatrists are attacked at a rate much higher than any other doctor. They're murdered at a rate at any higher doctor. Their suicide rate is higher than virtually any other doctor. And I think at the gut level, they know deep down that these drugs that they're fostering on these people are causing brain damage and peripheral nervous damage, and their patients aren't getting any better, they're getting worse, and that they're suffering over that. So I think it may be a combination of that, as well as the entities not liking them giving these drugs, because the only reason these drugs work is they calm these guys down, and the voices want to hyper them up. They want them agitated and angry all the time. They want them isolated, and these tranquilizers kind of stomp that down. So they interfere with what the voices are trying to get done.
And they also interfere with the healing process. You can't heal unless you face these entities head on.
Yeah, as long as they're there, you're not going anywhere. You have to resist them. You have to fight them.
Hi, that's the end of part 1. Please join us over at sheepfarm.co.uk. If you're a member, you can listen and download for free. Thank you once again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy part 2. Bye.
Oh,